On behalf of the European left and also on behalf of the Linke in Germany, I want to express my solidarity with the Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli occupation prisons. About 4,400 Palestinian prisoners are held in Israeli prisons, including 400 children. But until today, and despite many international calls, the prison's conditions do not correspond to international standards. There are reports of ill treatment and even torture. Still, many prisoners who suffer from diseases don't get the treatment they need. The European left and also the Linke is in solidarity with the Palestinian prisoners and calls out to the Israeli government to respect international standards. We reject administrative detention, which allows the detention without charge or trial. The United Nations had declared clear standards for the treatment of prisoners, like the prohibition of torture and all necessary medical treatment.
Hello, my name is Nicolai Willumsen. I'm a member of the European Parliament representing Enhedslisten, the Red Green Alliance from Denmark. I'd like to send my solidarity and greetings to the Palestinian people. You are facing daily human rights violation, and the Israeli occupation is a clear violation of international law that needs to stop. I would also like to send my greetings and solidarity to the political prisoners from Palestine in Israeli prisons. You are facing daily human rights violations and even torture. This is unacceptable and needs to stop. Finally, I would like to say that I stand here in solidarity with all of you, and I wish you a good conference and send you my best of greetings, and I'm proud to stand side by side with you in the fight for a free Palestine.
Israel is holding about 4,000 Palestinian prisoners in its prisons, including 140 children and many female and elderly prisoners. 450 are administrative detainees. Nearly 700 prisoners suffer from diseases. The prisoners are held in harsh conditions and hundreds of them got coronavirus. Last year I sent a protest to the Israeli embassy in Copenhagen to protest against the imprisonment. He was so angry about the letter that he avoided to send my letter to the Israeli ministers. The Danish Parliament had on Wednesday a debate about the situation in Palestine, and we made a statement about the unacceptable situation. We have to work towards the release of sick prisoners, women, children, and the elderly. And I say freedom for all political prisoners of Palestine, democracy for all Palestinians. Israel holder omkring 4.400 palæstinensiske fanger indespærret i deres fængsler. Her er 140 børn, 36 er kvinder og 450 er administrativt tilbageholdte uden at have været for en domstol. Fangerne lever under barske vilkår og er nægtet at få medicin. 400 af fangerne er ramt af corona. Jeg opfordrer den internationale samfund og de humanitære organisationer til i solidaritet med de palæstinensiske fanger at sikre ordentlig beskyttelse af fangerne og arbejde for frigivelse af de syge personer, kvinderne, børnene og de ældre. Jeg har kontaktet ambassaden med en protest, og vi har i Enhedslisten arrangeret debatter og gadeaktiviteter. Besættelsesmagten Israel må presses til at respektere internationale konventioner. Frihed for alle palæstinensiske fanger.
Support for Palestinian political prisoners in Israel. First, dear Norwegian listeners to our TV program like this one, sending here in Oslo, Norway. Please focus on the situation of the Palestinian political prisoners in Israel jails. They are arrested and detained on illegal grounds by an occupying power, the State of Israel. The majority of Palestinian political prisoners are charged with offenses under Israeli military orders. Even Palestinians peacefully protesting the confiscation of the lands are subject to arrest and detention. The Israeli orders employ a broad definition of security, such that they ban, among other things, even political expressions. It is forbidden to conduct a protest, march or meeting without permission from the Israeli military commander. The order prohibits the distribution of political articles and pictures with a political content. Holding a Palestinian flag or listening to a national Palestinian song is considered a hostile action. The State of Israel uses its power to arrest and detain as a means to control the Palestinian population and punish any political activity aimed at challenging Israel's occupation, thus violating basic human rights and norms. And then there are Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli jails. Great honor and thanks to you, strong, proud and sincere Palestinians in struggle for Palestinian rights, struggle for justice, struggle for human rights, struggle for your land, beloved Palestine, struggle for rights of your family, your children, struggle for your history, Palestinian history, struggle for free Palestine. Honorable Palestinian political prisoners, men, women and children, the world should offer you thanks. You fight for justice and peace. Palestine offers you thanks. You willing to offer your lives for justice, your people and your homeland. It is a great pleasure for me to greet you, strong and proud Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli jails. Determination and success be with you.
In these troubling times, when the world is confronted with an unprecedented pandemic taking the lives of over 1 million people, we must not lose focus on our Palestinian brothers, sisters and children. Our solidarity must also be directed to the sick Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons. We know that there are several Palestinian children continue to be detained by Israeli authorities. Children that are detained and interrogated without their guardians present, without their parents present, without their families present. Children that are often forced to sign statements written in Hebrew, the language most of them cannot read. Children that are subjected to conditions that violate all international human rights standards, causing deep and painful trauma for the rest of their lives. It is deeply tragic when generations after generations of Palestinian children are born under oppression, they grow up under oppression, and they eventually die under oppression. This is not acceptable, while the world keeps watching. Israel is the only country in the world that systematically subjects Palestinian children to military tribunals. This must come to an end. And I, as a member of parliament for the Left Party, will continue to join all democratic efforts in showing our solidarity to the oppressed but strong and honorable people of Palestine. The burden of this tragedy lies on our shoulders. It lies on our conscience. It lies on the shoulders of the international community. So I urge all international human rights organizations, including the United Nations and its member states, the European Union and its member states, and the Council of Europe, to take effective action and measures against the violations committed systematically against Palestinian children who are detained by Israeli forces, but particularly to those children that run the risk of being infected with COVID.
Kostas Isihos, former Minister of Defense, former parliamentarian from the Greek Parliament, from the Hellenic Parliament. Our hearts and minds are with the Palestinian prisoners. 17th of April is a very important global day in solidarity of all Palestinians, towards all Palestinians. Here in Greece, we express our firm conviction that these people, these human beings, our brothers and sisters, our comrades, must be liberated, who are in jails today, in Israeli jails, some of them children, women, and of course elder people, some of them in need of medical attention. We call on the international community, we call on the Greek government, we call on the European governments to look towards Palestine, finally to give a just peace and to call an end for unjust enjailment and imprisonment of all Palestinians, brothers and sisters. This must be done today without hypocrisy, without too many words. It's the time for action.
Buenos días a todos. Gracias a los presentes, a las personalidades y los medios de comunicación que nos acompañan en este día dedicado a los prisioneros y prisioneras de Palestina. Soy Ramón Pedregal Casanova, miembro de la Comisión de España de Apoyo a los Prisioneros Palestinos, que forma parte de la coalición europea.
من بيروت أتوجه بالتحية إلى أحرار العالم. أنا أنور ياسين، الأسير المحرر من السجون الإسرائيلية، ولمناسبة يوم الأسير الفلسطيني أتوجه بالتحية لكم وأدعوكم للتضامن مع هذه القضية الإنسانية العادلة. قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي تعتقل في سجونها أكثر من 4400 أسير، من بينهم 140 طفل و36 امرأة. هناك 450 أسير إداري معتقلين دون أي تهمة أو محاكمة. من بين الأسرى 700 أسير يعانون من أمراض مختلفة، من بينهم الأسير المسن فؤاد الشوبكي الذي تجاوز عمره 81 عاما. هناك العشرات من المعتقلين الذين تم اعتقالهم أكثر من مرة. الأسرى يعانون من سياسة إهمال طبي، وهناك أكثر من 400 أسير أصيبوا بفيروس كورونا، ونتيجة الإهمال الطبي استشهد العديد منهم، وكان آخرهم الأسير كمال أبو وعد، وباستشهاده يزيد عدد الشهداء داخل السجون الإسرائيلية عن 226 أسير منذ العام 67. من بين الأسرى هناك 25 أسير اعتقلوا قبل اتفاقية أوسلو 93، ومن بينهم أيضا 13 أسير مضى على اعتقالهم أكثر من 30 عاما. أقدمهم الأسير نائل البرغوثي الذي تجاوز سنين اعتقاله عن 40 عاما، وأيضا الأسيران كريم وماهر يونس الذين اعتقلا منذ العام 1983. بالنسبة لنا كمتضامنين مع قضية الأسرى، ندعو المجتمع الدولي والمؤسسات الإنسانية المستقيلة للأسف من دورها الإنساني إلى الوقوف وقفة صادقة مع قضية الأسرى وحمايتهم وحماية حياتهم والمطالبة بإطلاق سراحهم فورا، لا سيما الأسرى المرضى والأطفال وكبار السن والنساء، والضغط على قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي من أجل الالتزام بالمواثيق والاتفاقيات الدولية للتعاطي مع الأسرى. ومعا نصرخ ونهتف الحرية لكل أسرى فلسطين.
أيها الإخوة، أنا والد الأسير محمد خليل الحلبي، صاحب أطول محاكمة في التاريخ بعدد 157 محكمة، والمعتقل منذ 15/6/2016 باتهامات دون ثبوت أي دليل للسنة الخامسة. كما يعلم الجميع أن الإسرائيليين يحتجزون أسرانا في ظروف قاسية دون رعاية صحية، وسياسة إهمال طبي في ظل انتشار الكورونا، منهم المرضى ومنهم كبار السن كالأسير فؤاد الشوبكي 81 عاما، ومنهم الأطفال وأسيراتنا، ومنهم المعتقلين الإداريين حوالي 700 معتقل و300 أسير يعانون أمراضا خطيرة، وأسرى مضى على اعتقالهم أكثر من 30 عاما. كمتضامنين مع أسرانا ندعو المجتمع الدولي ومنظمات حقوق الإنسان لتوفير الحماية لأبنائنا الأسرى وإطلاق سراحهم جميعا من سجون الاحتلال.